Hey everyone, my name is Max, and this is the weekly comic review for July 9th in the year of our Lord 2025. Now, this was a huge week for Titan comic fans. If you are a fan of Robert E. Howard characters like Conan the Barbarian and Solomon Kane, this was the week for you. Thankfully, I read about 10 comics this week, but before I go into each and every one individually, telling you guys which ones I would recommend you pick up or add to your pull list, and which ones you can safely skip out on, I have to mention the undisputed champion of this week, the one that I would give my highest recommendation to. And come on, if you guys have watched this channel before, you know what's coming. You already know that it has to be Conan the Barbarian, issue number 22 by Grim Jim Zub, Ferocious Fernando Dagnino, and Dangerous Diego Rodriguez. In this latest issue of Conan the Barbarian, Conan, accompanied by the Bamulas and Livia, arrives in the suspicious border town of Daint. His caution proves justified when he discovers his allies drugged and taken captive. Overwhelmed by the townsfolk despite his fierce resistance, Conan is caged and later presented as a slave to the sorceress Ather Bast, whose magic subdues even the mighty Cimmerian. He awakens to find himself in a gladiatorial arena, forced to fight for the amusement of cruel lords, including the notorious Thoth Amon. This issue of Conan the Barbarian presents a compelling narrative, with Conan adopting the formidable alias Amra the Annihilator as he fights off the savage foes thrown at him. The artwork in this issue is a standout once again, featuring powerful and expansive splash pages along with a double-page spread that exemplifies exceptional sequential storytelling, vibrant coloring, and exciting, explosive, and innovative panel layouts. What truly resonated with me as someone who appreciates deep character dives is Jim Zub's masterful use of caption boxes. I love how they're windows into the very soul of these characters, giving us such a rich understanding of their innermost thoughts and motivations. You truly feel like you're inside their heads, experiencing every decision with them. I really like the dynamic between Ather Bast and Conan as we see her cunning use of his raw power to bolster her standing among the elite, and how it's so really kind of deliciously manipulative. It perfectly embodies everything you'd expect from a truly evil sorceress. It's a relationship that adds a lot to the story and not just action. Beyond the exhilarating gladiatorial battles, which are a total blast, I was genuinely impressed by the layers of political intrigue woven throughout this issue. It's not just about Conan fighting his way out of slavery, it's about characters constantly maneuvering for status or subtly pulling strings behind the scenes. There's so much happening beneath the surface, even while Conan is in the thick of the arena, and it makes the world feel incredibly alive and complex. These rich character moments truly deepen our understanding of their core desires and passions, and honestly, it just makes me fall in love more and more with this series. Highest of recommendations from me. If you're looking for a comic that delivers on all fronts, action, art, and character depth, you absolutely have to pick this one up. Continuing with more Titan comics, we have Savage Sword of Conan number 9 by Patrick Zurcher, Fabian Nicieza, and others. Savage Sword of Conan is usually the absolute highlight of my week when it lands on the comic shelves. For just $7, often less than some of the more mainstream DC or Marvel titles out there, you get over 60 pages packed with fantastic stories and art from some truly top-tier talent. And I just love the magazine format, printed on classic newsprint with all that gorgeous original black and white art, plus the bonus poems, short stories, and pinups. Last month's Savage Sword of Conan, number 8 in particular, was one of the best issues of the entire run for me, earning my highest recommendation for that month. So it's with a bit of a heavy heart that I have to say this month's issue didn't quite hit those same heights. The longest story in this issue, a full 50 pages, comes from the incredibly talented Patrick Zurcher, who not only wrote it but also handled all the art. And let me tell you, the artwork here is absolutely the star of this issue. Zurcher delivers some truly spectacular action scenes, with Conan battling everything from gigantic crabs to swarms of monstrous monkey men, and even a sorceress so stunning her mere presence is enough to bewitch anyone who lays eyes on her. Plus, he takes us on an epic journey through so many incredible settings: desolate desert wastes, ancient crumbling cities, and forgotten jungle temples. It's all there, and it's a blast to visually travel through. However, as much as I adored the visuals, there was one major stumbling block for me: Valeria. Throughout this entire quest for a mystic relic, Conan and Valeria are just constantly bickering at each other. She incessantly nags, nag, and complains about everything, from how Conan got them into their current predicaments to criticizing his decisions, even when he follows her own advice. Her dialogue felt genuinely abrasive and condescending. Instead of seeing her as a strong, capable ally working alongside Conan, it felt like she was just perpetually competing with him, almost actively trying to thwart his plans. Her emotions seemed to flip on a dime as well, and I really struggled with the lack of consistency in her characterization. Honestly, this could have been an outstanding issue if not for her inclusion in this particular way. The backup story, penned by Fabian Nicieza and illustrated by Sean Chen, was perfectly solid. It poses a really interesting question: can the complacency of peacetime truly dull an army's skill and a kingdom's success? We discover that King Cole has devised a clever ploy to test his army's mettle during times of peace, keeping them sharp and ready. The art was pretty cool, but it was really the compelling story and the well-crafted characters that made this backup worth reading. And as always, we get two stunning pinups. This issue features beautiful pieces of Conan by Valerio Giangiordano, there we go, and King Cole of Jeff Isherwood. They're always a welcome addition to the magazine whenever we get pinups from these top-tier talents. Overall, this issue was just fine. It didn't quite live up to the incredibly high bar set by previous issues, so if you're a regular collector of Savage Sword of Conan, you'll definitely still want to grab this one, if only for the fantastic artwork alone. But if you're new to the series, I'd honestly recommend probably starting with either issue 1 or issue 8. Both of those are truly fantastic and will give you a much stronger sense of why I love this series so dang much. Moving right along with even more Robert E. Howard characters and another book from Titan Comics, we have Solomon Kane, issue 4, with art and story, once again, by Patrick Zurcher. Man, he is working hard. I love it. I honestly can't believe that this is it. It just hit me this week that Solomon Kane, The Serpent Ring, was actually structured as a 4-issue miniseries, which means this issue is the epic conclusion to Pat Zurcher's fantastic run on this 4-issue mini. And let me tell you, I'm truly regret not having followed this series more closely. Patrick Zurcher's dialogue for Solomon Kane is simply perfect. Chef's kiss. He absolutely nails Kane as that devout, courageous, and relentlessly devout man, completely driven by his divine mission. You can feel that unwavering resilience pouring off the pages, giving you such a clear understanding of what makes Kane tick. Plus, Zurcher has this incredible knack for crafting realistic and engaging conversations between his characters. Their exchanges feel super authentic, and the banter, especially when conflicting viewpoints clash, is just brilliant. Every single character feels like they have a unique and distinct voice, which really adds a lot of depth to the story. And of course, Zurcher once again knocks it out of the park with his fantastic art and meticulously detailed line work. The worlds he creates are just so creative and immersive, you truly get drawn right into them. His visuals perfectly complement the writing, creating this seamless and captivating experience that you just want to get lost in. This issue genuinely feels like the grand finale to an incredible fantasy tale, bursting with action, adventure, and intrigue. It's got all the swashbuckling excitement you'd hope for, reminiscent of a big summer blockbuster, with intricately developed characters expertly guiding you through this epic journey. I cannot recommend this series enough. It's a true testament to Zurcher's complete creative talent, delivering such a satisfying and memorable end to Solomon Kane, The Serpent Ring. If you're a fan of epic fantasy and stunning sequential art, you absolutely need to check this one out. Next up, we've got Transformers issue number 22 by Daniel Warren Johnson, Jorge Corona, and Mike Spicer. Alright, well, at least most of us know at this point, because the news is already out, that Robert Kirkman and Dan Mora are officially taking over Transformers with issue number 25. And honestly, I'm absolutely thrilled with this decision. Initially, I was pretty worried about who would be next in line, fearing we might get some no-talent hack writer and illustrator that were just going to ruin the series. But Skybound is clearly making all the right moves, showing us as fans that they genuinely care about this comic. That said, it is a bit bittersweet. We only have 2 more issues left with Daniel Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona at the helm, and let me tell you, they have been a rock star team. So I'm trying to soak up every last bit of awesomeness from these final issues before they move on. Now, when it comes to this month's issue, it is a large buildup, but I think it's still doing an incredible job of keeping us engaged and not just dragging us along to the finale. You can just feel everything converging, clearly heading towards one epic final battle, and honestly can't wait to see how it all explodes. Jorge Corona continues to deliver absolutely stellar artwork that just blows you away. Seriously, his panels are packed with so much energy and detail and raw grit. But what truly sets this run apart for me is DWJ's incredible ability to infuse these giant machines with such profound, heartfelt emotion. Through his dialogue and character work, he makes them feel so human. You get these incredibly expressive, emotional scenes that really make you care about their plight and feel the immense weight of their mission. There's so many powerful character moments woven throughout this issue, and I love how deeply you get pulled into the story. It feels like a genuine partnership between us, the readers, and the creators. We trust them, and in turn, they trust us to invest in their world. It truly feels like we're building towards a final conflict where the stakes will ramp up to levels hitherto undreamt of. This issue is an absolute must-read. If you're following the series, you know what I mean. It's not just another chapter, it is a pivotal step towards what promises to be an unforgettable conclusion for this creative team. Highly, highly recommend this one. Next up, we've got Planet Death #1 by Derek Kolstad, Robert Venditti, Thomas Giorello, and Sonny Go. Alright, hold on to your butts for this one because I have a lot to say about this comic. Now, if you're not familiar, Bad Idea is an independent publisher that burst onto the scene around 2020 with a really, let's say, unique strategy. They initially committed to just 2 print-only copies a month, no digital and no future collections. You could only grab their books from partner stores, some offering mail order. Each issue was a beautiful package, a main story, a backup, top-tier creators, and that lovely high-quality gloss paper with perfect binding. Now, Bad Idea has been pretty controversial from the start. They faced a lot of pushback from their super limited, almost elitist distribution, and after their first wave, things got even more wild. They started marketing with these crazy, almost ridiculous gimmicks instead of just focusing on the story and art. Remember the Comic Con scavenger hunt that you had to complete just to get a comic? Or when they pretended to go out of business and instead become a donut company, giving you some shoddy comic with each donut purchase? The most egregious for me, though, was at the end of 2021 when they announced they'd teamed up with CGC, the big, grading company, to grade invisible comics called Conceptual Funnies #1. Then they sold them for $1,000 a pop on New Year's Eve. Yeah, so it's been nearly 4 years since I've really dug into a bad idea comic, with ENIAC, Tankers, and Monster Kill Squad really being the only issues and comic series that I've truly connected with. But Planet Death genuinely piqued my interest. Plus, they released a $1.99 zero issue on classic newsprint, which I thought was a pretty cool move. With that context out of the way, what did I actually think of Planet Death #1? It was alright. The premise is pretty straightforward. An elite sci-fi army full of presumably skilled cybernetically enhanced soldiers gets dropped onto a frozen hostile planet with one mission: destroy the weapon, return home. We follow Corporal Scott and his battalion, but after an intense, brutal battle against a savage alien force, Scott realizes he's the sole survivor. Now he has to go behind enemy lines to finish the job. The main thing that absolutely carries this comic is Thomas Giorello's artwork. Seriously, it's stunning. The concept designs feel like this fantastic fusion of Warhammer 40k, Doom, The Matrix, Starship Troopers, and Edge of Tomorrow. All things that I thoroughly enjoy. The tech and sci-fi elements are incredibly well illustrated with super intricate detail that this world feels, really gritty and truly lived in. I particularly love how he depicts battle sequences. They're brutal, dark, and visually breathtaking, packed with huge explosions and over-the-top badass action. He makes this alien race feel genuinely menacing, like an unrelenting force of nature. The colors are fantastic too, really showcasing a high level of talent. The art makes this comic feel massive and expansive, and the execution of each scene just screams epic blockbuster. Now, when it comes to the plot and characters, however, I felt like Planet Death isn't really breaking new ground in the genre. There are a lot of unanswered questions. Who are these soldiers? What's the alien race they're fighting? Why is this weapon so critical? What does return home even mean? Is it a real place or just implanted memories to keep them fighting? The list goes on and on. The upside to this method and approach is that we don't actually get bogged down in lore or long exposition. It drops you right into this world and straight into the action. But the downside of this is that I struggled to care about any of these characters or feel truly invested in their mission. And this brings me to the biggest flaw in the comic: the dialogue. What little dialogue there is feels almost worthless. Honestly, you could have made this a silent issue and it might have actually improved the comic, which is genuinely surprising considering that Robert Venditti usually has such a fantastic track record with his writing. A lot of the dialogue is just endless repetition of destroy the weapon, return home, or generic battlefield chatter that adds nothing. For example, Corporal Scott yells, "There's a whole army, Sarge," and the sergeant replies, "Doesn't matter, kill 'em all." Like, dude, what? It comes across as so simplistic and almost parodic representation of military communication. And just like a bad parody from some Hollywood elitist douchebag who knows absolutely freaking nothing about combat, warfare, tactics, or strategy, it is completely lacking in characterization, situational awareness, or even just basic human interaction for supposedly highly skilled, highly trained sci-fi super soldiers. It feels embarrassingly immature and childish. Overall, this issue was honestly upsetting and pretty disappointing for me. Yes, the artwork is incredible, and the setting is undeniably cool, but honestly, Warhammer 40,000 often delivers this kind of gritty sci-fi action with so much more depth and intrigue, and does it so much better. It's not that I need some deeply philosophical, nuanced story, but I really wish this had a bit more substance in the writing department. I'm all for a fun, mindless action book, but this felt so oversimplified that it left me wanting more. I'm hoping that future issues will give us more characterization for Corporal Scott and a cleaner understanding of why this mission is so important. But until then, this is really just a visually cool comic, and that, for me, is currently devoid of any interesting plot, characterization, or compelling story. Next up, we've got Fantastic Four issue number 1. The Fantastic Four are back with another shiny new number 1 issue this week. The premise itself is somewhat interesting. The team faces off against Dr. Doom, things go completely sideways, and suddenly they're all scattered across 4 different eras of Earth's history. Reed, Johnny, Ben, and Sue are isolated, fighting to survive, with their only hope being to somehow reach the Forever Stone, a super dense, incredibly ancient piece of granite. So right from the start, one aspect immediately stood out for me, and not in a good way. Sue Storm's portrayal, particularly her declaration of being team leader and then being exclusively the one to rescue everyone else on the team, felt incredibly forced, contrived, and overtly aligns with this contemporary social messaging. It honestly came across as a transparent attempt to push this particular girl boss narrative rather than an organic development of her character. And as a reader, I want to see these characters evolve naturally, not feel like they're just serving some agenda. Beyond that, I'm still trying to understand the continued hype around Ryan North's writing on these Fantastic Four books. Why do we need another new number 1 issue and a new series, but with the same exact writer? It feels like deja vu, and it leaves me wondering about the genuine necessity of this particular relaunch. For me, this comic landed squarely in the kind of perfectly mid category. It's certainly not like bad, as the concept itself is somewhat interesting, and the art is genuinely good. It's a definite highlight. But ultimately, it feels formulaic and just straight up boring. As a new number 1 that's supposed to reintroduce these characters and serve as a fresh jumping on point, it just comes off as tired and uninspired. There's no real spark and no reinvigoration. Honestly, the only truly positive thing I can say is that the artwork is really well done, but even that isn't enough to elevate this entire experience. This comic to me feels completely inconsequential, and it just seems less like a creative necessity and more like another number 1 cash grab, perhaps designed to drum up excitement for the upcoming Disney Fantastic Four movie, obviously, and as a fan, that is a bit disappointing, so this is definitely not a recommend. Now, speaking of the new Fantastic Four movie from Disney, let's talk about the other FF issue number 1 that was released this week, titled First Steps, a one-shot by Matt Fraction, Mark Buckingham, and Alex Sinclair. And no, I'm not joking. There were, in fact, 2 different number 1 issues of Fantastic Four comics this week. Honestly, this book felt less like a fresh comic book adventure and more like a promotional pamphlet for the upcoming Disney film that they would hand out at the theaters as you're walking to your seat. The most striking thing you'll notice right away is the direct visual portrayal of the movie's cast. Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Ebon Moss-Bachrach all drawn as their respective characters. It's pretty clear this is Disney's way of giving us an early peek at the team, hoping that we'll start to kind of understand and feel their chemistry. For me, though, it just falls completely short and doesn't really do anything particularly interesting here. The comic largely pulls from the organic or original Fantastic Four number 1 from the 1960s, but is now firmly set within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I suppose that's the one novel aspect here. It does kind of feel like a comic that exists within the MCU itself. But as someone who's found recent MCU developments, especially since Endgame and through phases 4 and 5, I found that all pretty underwhelming and honestly pretty terrible. I honestly couldn't care less whether this comic adheres to the MCU or not. And that leads me to my biggest worry. Not only did this feel like a somewhat uninspired idea to market the movie, but it also showcased pretty much everything I'm concerned about with the upcoming film, mirroring the issues I've had with previous MCU iterations. We get more of the fantastic girl boss Sue Storm, and oh yeah, these are the other guys that are here too. Yeah, they're in this comic as well. Then we're hit with the classic Marvel trope of, oh, we're not going to defeat the bad guy, let's just talk to him and fix everything. The final battle just felt super anticlimactic, and I'm left scratching my head as to why Mole Man essentially gets off scot-free. If the purpose of this comic was to make me more interested in these actors and this specific team dynamic for the film, I have to say it failed. This issue didn't ignite any excitement or heightened anticipation for the movie in me. In my personal opinion, it feels like a complete waste of paper. Do not recommend. You can definitely skip this one. Alright, let's get a palette cleanser here with Batman Dark Patterns, issue number 8 by Dan Waters, Hayden Sherman, and Triona Farrell. This issue really pulled me in from the very first page. We find Batman frantically and relentlessly patrolling this one specific neighborhood, the Rookery, but he's hitting brick wall after brick wall with 0 leads. And what makes it even more intense is that 2 more murders have happened since the first, adding a ton of immense pressure. You can really feel the frustration building for both he and Commissioner Gordon. And I love that personal touch. There's this specific moment where Gordon thinks to himself, he looks exhausted as Batman slips away into the night to continue his relentless detective work. It just perfectly encapsulates how intense this search is and how heavy the toll is taking on our caped crusader. Dan Waters writes such a compelling and genuinely interesting narrative about what's unfolding in this strange, eerie shantytown within Gotham. I found myself fully immersed and completely locked into this mystery. And I know I said this for the last issue, but I absolutely have to stress it again. Hayden Sherman is on fire. His panel layouts and illustrations are truly works of art. His style is incredibly creative, so interesting and distinctively unique. He has this amazing ability to make Batman feel both terrifying and an unstoppable force within this horrific setting, which serves as an absolutely brilliant backdrop for Batman's intricate detective work. Every page is a visual feast in this issue. This is another solid issue for the series that continues to deliver exceptional work both in terms of storytelling and art. It's a strong recommend from me this week and by far the best Batman book at DC right now. Next up, we've got Marvel's Swimsuit Special number 1. The premise of this comic is that the company Roxxon has created its very own unauthorized swimsuit special magazine. And yes, it's AI generated. Wasp catches wind of it and she seizes the opportunity for Marvel's heroes to stage their own global swimwear fashion shoot. The oversized special certainly delivers some splash pages of amateur artwork, aiming to give you enough visuals to justify paying $6 whole for this. So for those who might not remember, the original Marvel Swimsuit Special was an annual magazine-style comic Marvel put out from 1991 to 1995. It was a fun, lighthearted comic paralleling the Sports Illustrated swimsuit magazines, featuring awesome pinup illustrations of Marvel characters, both male and female, in swimwear. And the talent behind those pages was incredible. Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee, John Romita Jr., Andy Kubert, Walt Simonson, Whilce Portacio, and so many more contributed. These books were a blast. Unfortunately, this new issue doesn't even come close to the sheer talent or sex appeal of those early 90s editions. The art here feels stilted, rushed, and undeniably, and actually ironically, 100% digital or AI? It's objectively a puzzling choice. For some reason, Marvel decided to center this swimsuit edition around an actual story rather than just showcasing a collection of genuinely great pinups. I think it's ultimately trying to be like a nostalgia cash grab, hoping to entice middle-aged men with sexy covers featuring beloved characters. But when you actually open this thing up and try to read it, you are likely going to be extremely disappointed. This isn't anything special, and it certainly doesn't do anything new or reinvigorating for the industry. In fact, it's so self-aware of its own nature that it feels like the writers are just preaching to you about how AI is bad, and big corporations and capitalism, ooh, those are inherently evil, all without offering any real substance or intrigue. It's simply too meta for its own good. And honestly, why are they even trying to lecture us in what is supposed to be, in essence, nothing more than just a nudie book trying to showcase talented artists? The tone of this comic is completely uncalled for and frankly abysmal. It's just a sterile, watered-down version of those old 90s magazines that were genuinely fun and filled with so much more artistic talent, showcasing how those artists truly studied, admired, and understood the otherworldly, larger-than-life physique of these classic heroes. So, all in all, do not waste your money on this. It may be the worst book out this week and could very well end up on my list as one of the worst comics of 2025. And speaking of one of the worst comics of 2025, we have Uncanny X-Men number 17 by Gail Simone, Luciano Vecchio, and Rachelle Rosenberg. God, this was just absolutely pathetic, so I won't waste too much time here on this one, but the central premise tries to explore the societal impact of media portrayals, in this specific case and in this issue, a horror film, through the lens of the X-Men, which felt both dated and super heavy-handed, not unlike most modern X-Men books today that are coming out through Marvel. This issue's exploration of media representation comes across as clunky and overly condescending, reminiscent of an overtly moralistic and bad children's program like Captain Planet or something. The plot culminates in a confrontation with an actress revealed to be this kind of right-wing mutant internet troll, which is just so incredibly stupid, but completely tracks for Gail Simone and current Marvel X-Men, and was really super predictable, lacking any nuance. My overall impression was that the story felt more like some sort of childish educational commentary from 2016 rather than an exciting, thrilling, and fun superhero narrative that the X-Men used to be back in the 70s. I also don't understand the hype and overly positive reviews regarding Luciano Vecchio's art. I mean, it's fine, it just, to me it feels super bland and honestly just pretty mid at best. Lots of stagnant talking heads and stiff poses throughout. It's genuinely disheartening to see the current state of literally every X-Men title from Marvel right now. For me, it feels like the entire line from editorial down just needs a massive overhaul and complete gutting from the inside out. I am perplexed when I see others giving these comics super high ratings, as its thematic and narrative shortcomings are so extremely and objectively evident. So all that being said, no, I do not recommend this book whatsoever. Well, that just about does it for this week's comic reviews. Thank you all for tuning in. Genuinely, I really appreciate it. And I hope that this has helped you kind of sort out your pull list, because my goal is really to always help you navigate the ever-changing and ever-expanding world of comics. So let me know in the comments which comics you ended up picking up this week and which ones you did end up skipping out on, or maybe some books that you may have read that you didn't think were all that good. So let me know in the comments section below. But until next time, keep reading, keep collecting. Thank you all once again so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.